If you're looking to be the number one restaurant in the world, you need to innovate. But if you're looking to be top 10% home service companies, I think you just need to be a little bit better than the pack. And there is this saying that 2% of us share best practices, which means we do not belong to the 98% who lose. And I think this is true in the home service industry.
Welcome to Untapped with UpSmith. We're here for another fabulous episode. And Wyatt, I would love for you to introduce our guest since I'm just getting to meet him for the first time.
Well, Alex, I'm thrilled to introduce my friend Niklas James, who is the founder, managing partner of a really great investment platform that's focused on making a big impact in the world. We got to know each other through his work as executive chairman at Service Star in Texas, which is doing really important work in the home services industry. So, Niklas, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We're thrilled to get a chance to explore with you ways you're tackling the skilled worker shortage, how you're thinking about building valuable companies in the world, serving customers super well. Our focus is in helping create value for people who are out there doing similar things. And so we're excited to hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's more prevalent now than it's ever been before. How can you get more out of the assets that you have? And increasingly, as people focus on organic growth, this is definitely a key initiative for us as well.
That's great. Well, we'd love to start, Alex, from the beginning, right? So hearing Niklas' story.
I could spend the entire podcast just going into your life story, but let's at least get the first part. Tell us, how did you get set on this path to where you are now? You can go all the way back to childhood if you'd like.
Sure. Well, a lot of people always ask me about my accent, so I might as well clear that out right away. I'm from Norway originally, grew up there in a very pretty town called Stavanger. It's idyllic, safe, and as a kid, you have a lot of autonomy. So that's my background. I moved to the States in 2011 to do my MBA at Harvard and graduated from there in 2013. Since then, I've been mostly involved in the space of acquiring and growing small businesses. And I got involved in the home services space specifically in around 2018, 2019, and eventually acquired this platform that I'm spearheading now in 2020, which we call Service Star. And with Service Star, we have assembled 8 brands across North Texas, across HVAC and plumbing. And we have done, obviously, our fair share of M&A to grow this platform and also do a lot of focus on organic growth. We saw that 2021 and 2022 were extremely strong for organic growth in the industry. I think there were a lot of macro tailwinds supporting that, and we felt like geniuses, of course, growing at a very fast pace. 2023 saw a little bit of a pullback on the market. Consumer demand was not as strong as it had been in the past. And I can give some more data and details on that, but the consequence of that, of course, is that you need to be, on top of your performance in order to both get out the same margin with the same amount of revenue and in order to convert those leads that you get because they're more scarce than they had been before.
Right.
And I think how this pertains or leads into workforce productivity is that, we're looking at each other going through 2023. I think we're doing a great job. Our marketing department is doing well with generating leads and doing the best we can with the marketing conditions as they are. But as far as our margins, we're looking at each other and, why aren't they as high as they should be? We feel like our prices are where they should be. We really can't push them much higher before we get customer pushback. We have, we stay on top of our costs as best we can. It's not something we're oblivious to. There's no one big silver bullet on the cost side to increase our profitability. And so hence the answer to increase your margins therefore has to come from productivity. How can we get more performance out of the same assets that we currently have? And of course, being in the trades, your main asset is your people. You also have a fleet, but really your main asset is people. So how do we get more out of that? And that really sharpened our focus on the necessity of training and really getting strong on each metric operationally in the business.
Did you always know you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
I do think that was always in me, yes. My grandma apparently said that I was too obsessed with Monopoly as a kid not to go into business. So that's kind of a family story. And I've really enjoyed the path of doing entrepreneurship through acquisition, which is the space I'm in. And you don't necessarily start things from the ground up, but you get to acquire stuff and grow it from there. And that also happens to fit my skill set, as I had a background in management consulting. And of course, in consulting, you don't start stuff from scratch, but you go in, you assess what you're dealing with, solve bottlenecks, and make incremental improvements. And that really motivates me when you can make a lot of small changes to see big impact. And it's a skill set that you get from the generalist background that I have.
All
I had this
right.
visual of you dominating the Monopoly board and just really
Yeah, I'm
moving
out
it
of
around.
here because you guys both like Monopoly. You couldn't pay me enough to play Monopoly ever again in my life. I'm so serious. Not to mention both HBS grads, the consulting thing. Like, I'll just see myself out before all of the acronyms start.
That's why we became such fast friends.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing, Nicholas, a story about one of those early acquisitions? Like, how did it happen? How did it come to pass? What did you really see in the team? And that'd be really interesting for people to learn about.
Yes, so I had been in the space of acquiring small businesses for a handful of years. My wife took a job as an executive at Lennox in Dallas, and that really opened my eyes to the HVAC industry overall. So Lennox is, of course, one of the big manufacturing companies providing HVAC equipment, and she got a pretty strategic role in that organization in mid 2018. At the time, I was sourcing for my next deal, and being in Texas, HVAC companies are abundant, and I could see that it was a good fit with the value add that you can bring strategically as more of a private equity investor. And it's a fragmented, not so sophisticated space. I would say sophistication has dramatically improved even since I've been in the space, but at the time anyway, that was my impression. And I would say the industry got really, really hot from an M&A perspective during COVID, but this was actually still before that. So I saw that opportunity to excel in a fragmented space. And then that fall, I connected with a gentleman called Junior. He's still our CEO today, and he had, he was approaching 40. He had gotten his business to a great point. I think they were doing about 20 million of revenue, but it had stagnated a little bit, and he was mostly seeing it as a lifestyle business, and he had a desire to, step it up, get some partners, grow the thing, and feel some reinvigoration. And we just had a very good chemistry from the get-go, and we were pretty creative about how we approached our partnership, which culminated in me bringing on investors to buy out a majority share of the business, for which he still holds a small minority, and he runs it as the CEO day to day. And then I've been augmenting his skill set by bringing in my strategic background and helping with the M&A activity that we've done, and that partnership continues to this day. So that's how I got into both the space of buying businesses, but more specifically into the trades. And I like it. I've done deals in software before, but I really like the tangible nature of trades. You can really feel not only the impact of what you're delivering to customers, but also the workforce is diverse and real people. And you can really sense the difference that you're making in their lives as a good employer. And that's something that is more gratifying than standalone business results can ever be.
Totally. I've had the good fortune to get to know Junior also. So I've sat across from him, and I know how important trust is to him. And so I'm curious about how you built trust in that business relationship and partnership, and what was the journey like as it relates to that effort?
Yeah. I'm not sure I have anything groundbreaking to say there, but I think transparent communication is key to maintain integrity. And I think one thing he has been very good about is being aware of his weaknesses and development areas. And then ever since the start, he's been open about that. And then it happened to be that we have pretty complementary skill sets where my weaknesses or lack of experience is more in the direction of actually hiring and recruiting and managing a blue collar workforce. He has done that over and over. I don't have direct technical experience of operating an HVAC company. I've learned a lot since I got started, but I didn't have that up front. But I do have strategic experience and have experience to see where you can take a business in 2 to 5 years if you make those investments. And I think this was the case with Junior, and it happens to be the case with a lot of small business owners. They get their businesses to a stage where it supports a really comfortable lifestyle, and then they're unwilling to or unable to reinvest in the business to take it to the next level. And part of it is risk aversion, and that they finally now make a good living. Their wife is happy. They're taking home X. Because when you start a business, and you have to be super scrappy. Every dollar counts so much, and you're bleeding cash from a personal perspective. Where you can scrape by and pay your bills, and that's great when you can get your business at that point. And then after a while later, you get to the point where you're actually living comfortably, and you're taking home money, you're starting to go on vacations, and you have a good lifestyle. But that's the point where, in order to grow to the next step, you're not stretched thin, so you really should hire more of a back office. You should hire resources and people to help take you to the company to the next level. But a lot of business owners are too comfortable at that point to do that. And I think Junior saw that and saw I really need a partner who can help me overcome that step. And it's been a great partnership. We have to continue to have strong communication and a lot of fun working together.
That's great. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, in a similar spot of thinking about, how do I build trust with my partner? How do I use that as a way to make hard decisions and change the way of working? Because there's a set of habits that you form over years when you're building things. And I think what's really cool is, you come in from a perspective of being able to help bring new ideas and change some of the approaches, but do so in a way that also acknowledges the things you don't know. And one thing that you've written about a lot has been how important the people investment is in these businesses, given that a lot of your costs you're carrying are labor related. And so I'm curious about insights you've developed on that topic in leading and growing trades businesses over the past few years.
Yeah, I'm a late convert on the people side. I've read countless of business plans and company websites saying people, they are our most important assets, and we are so differentiated because of our people. And I guess I was cynical about it, because how can every single company in the world be differentiated because of their people? That didn't make sense to me. But I have converted around on that, and increasingly see people as a driver of performance. But also I've started to acknowledge the gratification elements of managing people well and giving people opportunities. And I guess when you're younger in your career, you spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's in it for me, and how is this rewarding for me, and you get a kick out of working in consulting. There's always the next promotion and the next ladder and next milestone you can reach for. But being a little later in my career now, it's even more rewarding to flip the script and say, well, what's in it for me? It's actually what's in it for others, and the value I can deliver to them. And I've also seen firsthand now that if I deliver good value to others, I get rewards for that, not only emotionally, but also it's good business. So yeah, I do write about this in my posts on LinkedIn quite a bit, about the link between good business and people management. And I think it is a differentiator for an operator to be good at the people element. And it also is one of those areas where you can never be perfect and you can always learn more. But it's exciting. I find a lot of joy in reading books about people management and always learning how to do that a little bit better.
You said my favorite word, books. What
Oh
are
yeah.
your recommendations? Yes, usually we do this at the end, but we can do it now. What are your book recs for our people listening, specifically who want to be better at people?
Yeah, I enjoy books too. I'm on a good streak here for the last couple of years, where I consume quite a bit of it. And um, as far as like people mentioned books, I think Winning by Jack Welch, I actually just reread it 10 years after having read it for the first time. He is extraordinary when it comes to people management. And that's his legacy more than anything. He obviously was a super successful CEO, but just how crisply he thinks about stuff like, GE would have this, you have 20% of employees are top performers. You need to invest in them, promote them, drive them forward because they're the ones who really drive value in your business. Then you have 70% of employees are, you need them in order to execute the business. You need to keep them content, and most of them are pretty content where they're at. And then you have 10% that you probably want to see some favorable attrition every year, and you need to push them to where they can thrive rather than in the organization or in the role where they're currently at and maybe not thriving. And this is an uncomfortable topic, but he so eloquently talks about how it can be a win-win if you can help these 10%, even if you reposition them or help them on their way to find something new. It eventually is a win-win because nobody enjoys being in a job where they're not excelling. And so I find him to be really good on this topic. Another book I'm currently rereading is he was an executive at Disney, Lee Cockerell. And his book is called Creating Magic, and he talks a lot about how at Disney, how they go about developing people and managing people, and how they differentiate on that front. So those would be two people-oriented books that I really like. A third book for you, Alex, is I read it about a year ago. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality, and that one was awesome. It's about this restaurant operator in New York, and let me just tell the long story. And I think it pertains to business in general, really does. So he was finally nominated to be one of the top 50 restaurants in the world, and went to this gala, and then before they had even sat down, the number 50 was announced, and it was him, and it broke his heart. Even though he's happy to be there, he had hoped to be a little higher in the list. And so he sat down allegedly with his partner that night, and they discussed, why are we number 50? Why aren't we, top 10? What differentiates them? And they came up with every other company or every other restaurant is doing something very innovative. They're not only best in class, they're doing something truly groundbreaking, being, how they prepare food, how they serve it, how it's sourced, how the facilities are. And that's when he came up with the concept of unreasonable hospitality, that he wanted to innovate by being so good at service, that will be the thing that they became known for. And lo and behold, a few years later, the restaurant 11 Madison Park in New York was ranked number 1 in the world, and because they were just outstanding on the customer service side. And I think there are a lot of things in that book for any business to borrow from.
You're speaking all my languages. I actually live in New York, very close to 11 Madison Park. And if you liked Unreasonable Hospitality, you should also read Setting the Table by Danny Meyer. It's kind of the predecessor of that book. And I agree. It's like, how does this apply to every aspect of my life when I don't work in the restaurant industry at all? But it's amazing. Business is business. And business is personal. So it works for your personal life as well.
I would go so far as to venture it also works really well in home services, given that
Bring it back, Wyatt.
Nicholas, well, he's in the hospitality business, right? Like when his technician shows up at your home, that's a high trust environment you're inviting somebody into. And I've heard you talk before, Nicholas, about how a lot of times we don't get coaching and training around how to be a good customer service professional, like how to help people in the context of sales, but in the context of getting to the right answer to solve their problem. And so I'm curious how that book or other influences have shaped how you think about training people to be really good at consultative sales, especially in the context of being a technician, dispatching to someone's home and providing them service. How do you think about it?
we're in an industry where we don't have to reinvent, or we don't have to invent the wheel. And what we want to accomplish has been done by others. And I think that is a big key here, and that if you can, and that to me means you can be trained to do it better. Well, whoever you are, somebody's always doing it better because it's a very competitive field. And so if you're looking to be the number one restaurant in the world, you need to innovate. But if you're looking to be top 10% home service companies, I think you just need to be a little bit better than the pack. And there is this saying that 2% of us share best practices, which means we do not belong to the 98% who lose. And I think this is true in the home service industry. A lot of our peer companies were sharing best practice, learning from each other. And I frequently visit other companies, always take away so many things. And of course, when I visit, I'll invite them to come visit us. And I will share as much as I can about how we do it or if we do anything differently. And as one of them said, I spent a half day with him in his offices. Busy guy, but if he could only get one or two nuggets away from me that day about how we did it, that would be worthwhile for him because he can implement those one or two items in his business, and that'll take him to the next step. And having peers visit him once or twice a month, it's effectively the best coaching and consulting you can have because he learns how others do it, and then he never is blinded by competitors doing it better as long as we learn from each other. As far as a personal experience, one of my, apart from being a paper boy as a teenager, one of my first job experiences was and this sounds like a joke from the 1950s, but I was actually selling vacuum cleaners door to door as an 18-year-old. And
is this in Norway? Are you in Norway?
Yeah, this was in Norway. It was in Norway, and it was like a $3,000 vacuum cleaner, and it had like incredible financing terms, which is how we could get people to buy it. But I was commission based. I would get 10% commission on every sale I made, and in a busy day, I could do up to 4 demos. They would take up to 3 hours each. So if I really cranked it in, I could get 4 demos into one day. And well, where do I start? I think in the first 3 or 4 weeks, I made maybe one sale, which wasn't that great of a pay even 20 years ago at the age of 18 when you kind of amortize $300 across that many hours.
Right.
But then the manager had given me a CD where they had recorded, this is what the optimal script is for you to sell. And I went from at about like the 1 month mark into my 3 month summer, I shifted from doing it 90% that way and improvising the rest to doing it 100% the way of the script. And my close rate went up. I did approximately one a day after that. And all of a sudden I was making great money for where I was at the time. And that really taught me a lot about the importance of training and scripts and doing it the proven way. And then, of course, overall, the job going into people's homes and selling an expensive item where I literally would go and vacuum clean under their beds.
That was my question.
This taught me a lot about psychology. We would have like a filter in between the machine and the hose. And the filter was not white, but black, so that all the dust, which is more white in nature, was super visible. And so it was just like really visual. Hey, look at all this dust you have under your bed. And very persuasive way to convince people. And they would be so embarrassed that they just would feel like they had to buy it. So now that was, learned a lot. Scammed a lot of people with that one,
This is my favorite origin story yet. I was going to ask, you literally were just giving people a free house cleaning and then maybe they bought a vacuum. That's a great service.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be fun to hear about an experience you had going and being a guest of another home services company and sitting down with an operator and like learning something that you said, wow, that is a really great insight, comparable to the how do you show the person the dust under their bed to get them excited about buying your product. Well, I'd love to hear about that experience of like a light bulb going off on a visit.
Yeah, I write extensive summaries of each of my visits and a lot of data points. For whatever reason, one thing that comes to mind as we're talking is a company visited in the Midwest, and their warehouse was very cleverly built in a way where it was a drive-through warehouse, which I hadn't seen before, and so the trucks would drive in and stop and then drive on, like they wouldn't even have to get out of the car, and it was right in the middle of the warehouse. And the construction was there was a door on both sides. It was basically a road going through the warehouse. And small thing, really, but it just is so deliberate. And so then you build a process around that, and you know, and you get cost savings based on that. That's one that pops into mind. Not a very powerful one, perhaps, but honestly, I've been so impressed with all the companies I visited, even smaller ones, like just people being smart about how they do things. And the word deliberate I really like because they think it through, and this is how we want to do it. And learning from that is not always 100% transferable or applicable to what we do, but you just see that it's a very cohesive process that they've built out. Um, and you know, smaller shops have less focus and resources at their disposal than bigger shops, but they can still do really clever things in their day to day. Um, Another one that we picked up on was, you know, they had, you know, whenever we go to a homeowner, we'll put on, you know, the stuff over your boots to cover your boots as you walk in, and you're very polite about how you greet. But these guys had printed doormats with their logo on, and they would put that down right there as they stepped in, and it's just clever, you know. And they could use that in their marketing, and they would give them away frequently as well. I mean, it's just a small investment that makes a big difference. We just got at our company, one of our companies, Lions, Air and Heat, we just rebranded, so upgraded the wraps on the vehicles and whatnot. And as part of that, we really enhanced. Lions is the surname of the original founder. Really like those guys a lot, and they always had like a tough, cool lion in their logo that looks majestic, but we actually converted that to be a very like cute looking lion instead. That is more for kids rather than a private equity firm. And now we have a stuffed animal that we have of this lion, and we give it away to kids whenever we go to a homeowner. And it's just a really good way to create positive feelings around the table. And it's a small investment, honestly, right? But it makes a big difference.
And you remember it. It gets talked about.
Yeah, exactly. That's the goal.
It gets talked about. How do you get these invitations? Is it a professional network? What leads to someone opening up their shop?
Yeah, mostly through, you know, friends and just being in the network in general. I'm also fairly forward-leaning and asking, can I come visit? And they rarely say no when I ask. But for the most part, people are really good about sharing. And many of them have come visited us in Dallas. So it's a two-way street. And you kind of learn from others who are more open to sharing and opening up their doors than others. So you learn that way too. I think the hardest part is not so much them opening their doors and sharing. It's just actually getting time on the calendar. I mean, everyone is busy.
When you host and people come to visit you, do you have a routine that you walk them through? Is there a specific way that you host?
Yeah, I would say so. I kind of give them a tour, and depending on how much time we have, I pace the tour accordingly. If I only have 90 minutes or whatever at my disposal, it'll be more in the conference room and discussing strategy, versus if I have half a day at my disposal, I'll walk them into a lot of the managers' offices and, hey, why don't you tell them a little bit about what you're working on this week? And, you know, walk through the warehouse. This is how we're organized. And so, yeah, I have, if not scripted, a little bit of a template that I follow when people visit. But for the most part, I try to have them talk to my colleagues and not me, because I can talk extensively about our strategy and high level, but the real gems for other operators is learning those small process steps. And they can be really minute details, but they can make a big difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah, tricks. You're very thorough. I can already tell. For one thing, when we send out our like briefing document, say, "Hey, here's what we're going to talk about in the podcast." You filled it out. Like you got your thoughts on paper. I'm so impressed. I need to do that more. And so I
you.
very much trust you to be a details person, even though we're meeting for the first time. And I would love to know, like, you're kind of into it already, but what are some of your more, fine point strategies or advice or recommendations for companies who are trying to increase workforce productivity in the face of labor shortages specifically? Because that's what we're up to.
Yeah, and again, the pretext here is that in 2021 and 2022, you didn't have to do this. I think what I've heard is that nationwide, you see about 6 to 7 million replacements, HVAC replacements per year. And that number skyrocketed to 8 to 9 million in 2021 and 2022. Why did this happen? It happened because people were sitting at home, people were investing in their homes, people were more flush on cash than they normally are, times were good, and also a lot of people were trading homes and wanted to upgrade before they moved into their newly bought home. And then we call it in the industry the pull forward demand, where a lot of the demand that would have naturally occurred in 2023 and 2024 already happened. In that usually when you need to change your HVAC systems as a homeowner, you like to kick the can a little bit. You're like, hey, can you repair it and give me another 2-year runway here? But so we saw a lot of people in 2021 who were like, I might as well replace it now, get a better system, more energy efficient and all of that. And that was great at the time. But the flip side, of course, is that they were out of the market more recently.
No.
And so that 8 to 9 million units a year contracted significantly starting in late 2022. And so because the market is, temporarily, we believe, compressed, we have to then assess, okay, how do we get more out of the people that we have and the leads that we generate? And I think for us, how do we increase productivity? I think we are increasingly aware of how can we use technology. I think this is, if you compare home service today versus 10 years ago, technology is the number one way in which productivity has gone up. Of course, using a dispatch system has gone from being a differentiator to being boilerplate now. I think a lot of companies, and us included, have experimented with how we compensate our technicians, try to make it more competitive by enabling them to earn more if they sell more. And that often sounds ravenous when you say to a homeowner that, oh, we're commissioning our technicians. But of course, a very, very good technician will know that they sell most if they're very good at educating their homeowner and presenting a lot of options. So those are the keys: educations and options. It's not pressure or pushing. That, in fact, repels customers. So I think it's not intuitive, but there is actually a little bit of a win-win by increasing commissions because they're more motivated to spend more time with the homeowner and educate them more. Just in general, more focus on training. And I think there are two aspects to this. I think one of the productivity problems we had was attrition. And we've all heard about labor shortage, but coming into 2023, it was worse than ever. Instead of losing, or in addition to losing technicians to competitors, we were losing them to Amazon, and one went to work as a manager at a Whataburger. It was like all over the place. And so why is this happening? That's, of course, a question we ask ourselves. But we went into the summer season having issues with both quality and quantity, where normally you have at least a base team and all of that. We didn't have as many technicians as we had budgeted. So coming into 2024, we are focused on both having the right quantity of technicians. And what we do in order to get quality is that we are now recruiting students off the street. We're pulling them through a 6-week program to give them all the technical training. And this now ensures that we have, we've just graduated 2 more cohorts. So we now have the labor. And now the next step is, how do we get the quality? How do we get these guys who 2 months ago didn't even know what a wrench was? I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but how do we get them to persuade homeowners to also invest in an indoor air quality product when their kid has asthma, and that's training, and that's quality training. So quantity training and quality training, I think both are important. And then, of course, as we have scaled as an organization, where before we could rely on hiring superstars, and if we got 2 or 3 of them every year, we would kind of be on a path to success. Now we can't. We're just too big to be able to recruit word of mouth alone. We need to have more applicants come in, which is why we have this training program. And when you have more, you also have to have more scripts and processes. You have to standardize what you do. And going back to the vacuum cleaner example, we essentially have that CD recording now, and try to be as consistent as we can around that. And consistency equals performance. And then lastly, I would say technology and the dispatch systems that are out there have really driven data. And the more data you have, the more scientific you can be about what your closing rates and conversion rates are, and figure out what are the methods that work best versus not working best, because you're able to actually measure in a way that the industry was never able to 20 years ago. Now you can really measure it all the time, the booking rate and so forth. So data is a big one as well.
That was a masterclass in everything UpSmith is up to right now. Everything we care about. Wow. And I really want Whataburger now. Thank you so much.
That's a very thoughtful investment of resources and priorities and process. Leading change is difficult. You talk a lot about how important it is to communicate to people that this is the why behind what's going on. Are there techniques that you've seen work well in taking that strategy you just laid out and implementing it?
So you mean, how do you affect change and
Right.
get people on board with that?
That's right.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a work in progress, I would say. And we just adopted a new technology. And you and I were discussing it, Wyatt, recently, and we had resistance there among the technicians. Oh, yet another tool, yet another process step. I've so much. They carry the whole company on their shoulders. The technicians who are in the field generating our revenue, that's their responsibility, and we put a lot on them. And so you really have to work on educating them, just like we educate the homeowners on why they should pick the highest grade systems, because it eventually is better for them. We have to do the same as we implement new changes with our employees. We have to really, from the ground up, build the value, and that can be an iterative process. And we try not to jump onto actually procuring new technologies before we have them on board. We want them to be part of that decision making as much as possible, so that they feel they had a say. With this latest technology, we did jump on it, but our technique for getting buy-in is that we only bought X licenses, and we have many more technicians than X, meaning that only a few of them. We essentially created scarcity around it, and so we went into the meeting when we met with all the technicians. We sold them in on this is what it is, and then we said we only have X licenses available. Raise your hand right away if you want it, and so we quickly got them on board. So now we have, a pilot group who are testing it. If it works out, great, we will expand our use of it. And if it doesn't, our investment was more limited in the first place. So that was probably a good way to go around it, because the people who are using it are very motivated now. We didn't force it on them.
Yeah.
Didn't raise their hand.
I love the insight around it was something that you got a chance to do, not as something that you had to take on. So the opt-in element is pretty powerful.
Yeah, opt-in is a good word. Yeah, the more you can do of that, the better.
That's great.
We're getting close to time here, and we could keep you all day if you'd like to clear the rest of your schedule for us. But if not, Wyatt, any closing thoughts on a great conversation?
Yeah, well, it's really inspiring what you're building, and the chance to shape people's lives with the work, because you're creating lots of really important jobs that are builders, people that are shaping safety, and they're shaping comfort, and they're shaping society. And that's really cool. I'd love to run through a couple of those lightning round questions at the end, Alex, that you're so good at leading us through.
Well, we already got into book recs, If you have any others, feel free to throw them in. I would also love, one of my favorite questions is if there's anything you could tell your younger self, what would that be? And perhaps that avatar is also maybe a business owner further back in the journey than you are currently. What would you tell him?
Yeah, on the book recommendation, one more on the people side.
Yes.
It's called The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. A great book about retention rates. And as we all know, attrition is very expensive because you have to hire and retrain. And so what can you do in order to retain more people? And I talked about this recently, that our HR departments, there are four things to HR. It's admin work, recruiting, training, and retention. Sadly, most companies invest in these four from left to right, or however you're reading my fingers on the screen there. Meaning they start with admin, you obviously need compliance and payrolls. I'm not saying it's a bad place to start, but it is tactical. It's not value add. It's something you need to do to execute and operate. And then they do recruiting, and then they do training, and then lastly, they'll come around to really investing in retention. And that's where you'll see, professional services firms are really good at this. But the real strategic value add is if you invest from right to left, meaning you start by retaining your people, invest your resources there, and then you go approach HR essentially upside down. And this book, I think, really, it's a parable, so it's a fictitious story, but that in a way narrates very well, and it was compelling. I read it in one sitting. It was that good, so I would highly recommend that book. As far as what would I tell my former self, I think coming from Bain and HBS, generalization is something that is glorified, and the whole mindset of if you're general and you're dangerous on everything, that means you keep all your doors open. And I think that makes sense when you're 23 or 27, and it resonates with, you haven't had to narrow it down. You haven't had to make the hard decision about what do I want to do when I'm older. But I do think it can limit you actually, or to say it conversely, I think specialization creates a lot of opportunities downstream. And I'm noticing now the more specialized I am in my career, the more inbound flow I get, and the more nudges I get for my expertise within these fields. And also it's more gratifying because I am an expert in certain fields, so I'm able to add value in ways that nobody else could versus being a generalist. And you can be dangerous and everything, but you can never be, lethal in the same way. So I think for me, a specialization, a younger self, I would say, just specialize on something and do a lot of that.
That's good. Dangerous and lethal. I'm about to turn on some hype music and figure out what I'm an expert in. Great.
Many
thank
things.
you. Yes.
Yeah, we're grateful for your time. I mean, I think that you certainly are an expert in helping to build really great companies, and getting a chance to share your insights with other people is a really cool thing. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you as well. Awesome to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll see you next time. You're signed up for several episodes after this,
Awesome.
friend.
It's always
You're
great
coming
to
back.
hang out with you guys.